What's up, everyone? How's it going? I want to start off the video with reading Genesis 39, verses 1 through 6, and then 20 through 23. Verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. Verse 2. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Verse 3. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. Verse 4. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. Verse 5. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. Verse 6. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. If we go to verse 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. Verse 21. And the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. 22. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. 23. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. So that time skip from verse 6 until verse 20 is essentially, some context behind that is essentially, Joseph was at the Potiphar's house, and he was staying at the Potiphar's house, taking care of everything within the house. And the Potiphar's wife was reaching out to him and lusted over him. And during that time, Potiphar's wife was telling Joseph to please lay with her. And Joseph denied. Joseph said that this is wrong. I can't do that to my master. So essentially, he kept denying her, to the point where one day she was holding on to Joseph's garment, and was telling him to please lay with me. And Joseph ran away. And in that moment, whenever the wife, as he was running away, the wife took off the garment of his and said, look, basically said to the guards and framed him, look, this person is trying to lay with me. And Potiphar saw that, and he got upset. And of course he believed his wife, and essentially sent Joseph to prison. That's where verse 20 took place. And I remember, as I was getting into the online space, at first I started off in the online space through an agency, and I was in the program. I was first introduced to essentially this new way of thinking. Before even the program, I didn't know that I had essentially the power to look onto something else. I didn't know that there was this principle where I can essentially travel to a different dimension and really, really live and embody that new dimension, and take on that new identity and bring it back over here to this current reality. This principle that I'm talking about is visualization. Visualization is essentially you picturing yourself, visualizing yourself in the name, where you operate from a different reality. And what visualization is essentially intentionally and thoroughly thinking and feeling the types of emotions that you would feel when you visualize yourself as this higher identity or higher person of yourself, higher self. So I remember visualizing myself and really asking myself, okay, what type of person am I whenever I have everything in my life? When it comes to, how I walk, how I talk, and how I act when it comes to life throwing stuff at me. How do I navigate through those emotions? How do I navigate through those circumstances? How do I navigate through those tribulations, right? And I would always ask myself, and in these the visualization takes a lot of time. Not a lot of time, but it takes time to actually for your reality to catch up. And the point of visualization is to you have this clarity in terms of who you are when you have everything. And the point of visualization is reminding yourself in this current reality that this is who you are, this is your identity in the future. It's just that it gives your, I guess, your subconscious and your conscious a roadmap or realignment to this is what my future is going to look like. It's just my future hasn't caught up yet. And of course, your current reality, takes time for that to actually take place. You have to unlearn a lot of the things that is within the mind, a lot of traumatic experiences, a lot of, um, negative emotions, a lot of reframes for you to actually start seeing that visualization come true. And I remember when it came to that, whenever I was going through this visualization, I would always remind myself, okay, this is who I am. This is who I am. And yeah, it was never consistent enough. There were still moments where I was falling down, and I didn't know why I was falling down, and I didn't have an answer to it. And I just assumed that, you know what, since I'm falling down, maybe that's just a part of who I am. That's just who I am as a person. And it wasn't until I found the gospel, it wasn't until I found Johnny Chang, where he showed me that this force within you that's bringing you down, that's making you stay the same spot, because you essentially have this belief that you know you're supposed to be somewhere else. You know you're supposed to be at a higher identity, yet you're not. Something is in the way. Some force is pulling you down, and you don't know what it is. It was until Johnny Chang showed me the Bible that allowed me to understand that, hey, this force is Satan. Satan is essentially keeping me comfortable. Satan is essentially keeping me in the same spot. I know I want more. I know I want more out of life, yet what is this thing that's making me not chase after that? And essentially that's Satan. And as I dove deeper and deeper into that, as I dove deeper into the Bible and into Christianity as well, I realized that this visualization that I learned, God found me through that, yet he didn't give me the necessary spiritual terminologies when it came to understanding that. And now I understand that visualization is essentially a practice that stemmed from God, that stemmed from the Bible. So the reason why I read those verses is because my pastor, he talked about this in Wednesday's sermon. He talked about how in Joseph's circumstances, it looks bad, right? He got sold off as a slave, and then after that, he got framed and thrown into prison. And his circumstances seem so bad and seem so dark. Yet, what does the word say? What does God say? God says, and the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper. And it said that Joseph is essentially prosperous. And the keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. So in these moments, my pastor was saying how in these moments where our circumstances may look very, very dark, God doesn't see that as that. God doesn't see it as a period. Even though we may see it as a period, God sees it as a comma. Yeah, it may be dark, but there's going to be light. In Genesis 2, God says that the first day starts with the evening, and then light, and then day. It starts off with darkness and then light. In God's eyes, in God's world, darkness starts, comma, and then light. How we see it is we want light first, but don't want darkness at all. So, for the past couple of days, I was just sitting in a lot of like condemnation and a lot of self-doubt and in a lot of emotions where I didn't want to go through. I didn't want to go through that discomfort. I didn't want to go through that darkness. And I was sitting in essentially darkness. Yet, I felt like it was a period. I felt like this was something that was going to happen for my whole life. I felt like this was something that was going to play out for the rest of my life. But in that moment, who did I want my master to be? Did I want my master to be my circumstances, which tells me that you're going to be in darkness forever, bro? You might as well just, you know, not be in that darkness. But in reality, I was going to be in that darkness forever. Or do I want to have my master be God, essentially, and his word and his promises? God says that darkness starts, but then there's light. God says that even though Joseph went through that, he's still a prosperous man. God promised Joseph that he was going to be a governor of Egypt. Joseph's heart decided to have that be the master. Yes, although I may have been sold to slavery, but God promised me that I was going to be a prosperous man. Yes, although I'm thrown into prison and spent 2 years in prison, God told me that I will be a governor, that I'm a prosperous man. And in those dark moments, Joseph's heart, even though he was in these dark moments, Joseph's heart was filled with light. And an analogy that my pastor told me was, our hearts are like the moon. We can't create our own light. The only light that comes from us is us illuminating the light from the sun. In the same sense, God's word, Jesus, is the sun. And the only way for our heart to be filled with light, even within this darkness, is whenever we focus on God's word and God's promises. So the past couple of days, I was so focused on this darkness. I was so focused on the shadow of how lacking my life is and how much circumstances and tribulations are through my life or are going through my life. And when I focus on that, I can't help but be in this negative feeling. I can't help but be in this low frequency. I was in such low frequency, shame, guilt. I was in, what else? Like sad, hopeless, despair. I was in those feelings and in those frequencies that when it came to my work, I wasn't even looking forward to work. When it came to seeing my friends, I wasn't even looking forward to seeing my friends. When it came to anything that I was doing in life, I wasn't looking forward to it at all. Yet, whenever my heart focuses on God's word, whenever my heart focuses on God, there's so much peace in that. There's so much light in that. There's so much grace in knowing that God is going to take care of it regardless. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think after that sermon, I'm going to be honest, I was expecting a fellowship. And I didn't get a fellowship after the sermon. And I remember walking away from that and I was just like, God, I still feel the same way. Like nothing has changed. Like I'm expecting, after hearing these words, for my heart to change immediately, but nothing's changed. And even the next morning, I was praying to God and I was like, God, you say that you're the same yesterday, today, and forever. Yet, why are you not working in my life? You worked in Joseph's life, and Joseph had it way worse than me. Yet you can't even handle these problems that I'm having. Why is that? And even with that heart, even with that prayer, God gave me the heart of peace again. God gave me the heart of light again. And even though it may sound harsh and I'm using God's word against him, God appreciates that because it's real and it's honest. I was really frustrated at him for me going through what I went through, going through having these countless fellowships, hearing the word so many times, yet my heart is so easy to focus on this darkness and fall into this darkness. And in that moment, God gave me the heart of peace, and he really let me know, like, hey, yeah, it may be dark for you, but do you not believe that I'll help you? Do you not believe that I'm still here with you? I told you to lean not onto your own understanding, but lean onto my heart. Acknowledge me in my ways and I will direct your path. I told you that I will lead you and I will make all your crooked paths straight. So, do you not believe that I'm already in this darkness with you? And right now, it may seem dark, but it's because I'm ahead of you. I'm leading you. I'm making your crooked path straight. I understand that you're going to be going through these crooked paths, but I'm paving a way for you to come back to the light. So in those moments where your heart is so focused on those darkness, yeah, I get it. It's scary. You can't help but cry. You can't help but feel sad. You can't help but feel hopeless. But do you not believe that I will come back? Do you not believe that I'm right there with you? I see you crying. I see you upset. I see you hopeless. That doesn't mean that I'm leaving you. That doesn't mean that I left you. Do you want to focus on those darkness? Or do you want to have faith that I'm going to be there? And a lot of the times, I get in my own way of my own blessings. For the past couple of days, or I want to say yesterday and today, it honestly, if I'm looking at circumstances, it's the same results as those 2 other days that I'm talking about where I felt hopeless and in despair. Nothing has changed. My circumstances hasn't changed. What's changed is my heart. My heart right now is so focused on God's word. It's so focused and believing that God is going to take care of it. God is going to fulfill his promises. But 2 days ago, it wasn't. 2 days ago was, yeah, God's not going to work, because I was so focused on how bad my circumstances are. When I focus on my circumstances, I can't help but be in darkness. But when I focus on God's word, my heart can't help but cultivate this light. Illuminate God's light. Illuminate God's hope. Illuminate his peace. So, I guess the moral of the story that I'm trying to portray here is, in my heart, same thing as visualization. Visualization essentially stems from the Bible because visualization has the practice of faith. Do you want to have faith in this higher identity that you already envisioned, that you already felt? Or do you want to focus on your current reality, your current circumstances? With visualization, what you're doing is essentially seeing your circumstances, and in these circumstances, you're reminding yourself, hey, my higher identity would operate from this if it has this type of problem right now. In the same sense, hey, this circumstance right now is something that God will solve. God has a solution to this. My higher identity has a solution to this. So in the same sense, in my heart, who do I want to lead my life? Do I want my higher identity to lead my life? Do I want God's promises to lead my life? Or do I want my circumstances to lead my life? Do I want this darkness to lead my life? And I want to ask you guys, in terms of your everyday life, whenever problems come up, whenever things that go against your expectations come up, who do you want solving your problem? Do you want your current self to solve that problem? the current self that still needs work, the current self that still is living in this current reality? Or do you want a higher power to be helping you solve this problem? Do you want this higher power to provide a solution for you? Whether this is your higher identity, your higher self, or God. That's all I really want to talk about today. And this past 2 days, today and yesterday, I have felt so much peace knowing that God has realigned my heart to focus on Him rather than my circumstances. When I'm focused on my circumstances, you guys saw it. I was so hopeless. I was in despair. And I'm so grateful that God was able to realign my heart. And it's every day that I need to remind myself that if I focus on my circumstances, this is what's going to happen. Even in the moments where I feel low, that exposes my heart telling me that I'm focusing on my circumstances rather than God's word. My heart essentially has threw away God's word. And if I really want to live in peace, I need to hold on to God's word every day, every day. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys like always. And I always appreciate the support. I love you guys. God is with you. And God will make everything work out. See you guys.